My name is Helen, and what I'm about to share with you isn't just a story. It's a moment that split my life into before and after. It started like any other day. I was driving home from work, tired, but nothing unusual. Then, out of nowhere, a sharp pain hit my chest like a lightning bolt. My hands clenched the wheel, my vision dimmed, and the world around me faded to black. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the car anymore. I was above it, floating, watching paramedics fight to bring me back. It was like watching someone else's tragedy unfold, but that someone was me. You'd think I'd be terrified, but I wasn't. There was a calmness I can't explain, like I was being held by something greater than myself. That's when I felt a presence, pure love, unmistakable power. What happened next, what I was shown, especially about the mysterious mark on our hands, changed everything I believed about life and why we're here. I've held on to this for years, but now I know it's time. Time to tell the truth. Time to share what I saw. So maybe, just maybe, it helps you find what you're searching for too. I've never been able to fully explain what happened to me that day, but I'll do my best. One moment, I was in my car, overwhelmed by pain, confusion, and darkness. The next, I was floating above everything. The noise, the chaos, the flashing lights, all of it felt distant, like it belonged to another world. My body was there, but I wasn't in it. And yet, I wasn't afraid. There was this peace, an unshakable calm, that wrapped around me like a blanket. I could sense the urgency of the paramedics, the weight of the moment, but I felt completely detached. Not in a cold way, more like I was finally safe, as if someone far greater than me was quietly taking over, saying, "I've got you." Then I noticed it, a light glowing in the distance. Not blinding or intense, gentle, familiar. It felt like love in its purest form. And somehow I knew that's where I was meant to go. I didn't fight it. I let go. The closer I moved toward the lighter I became. Not just in body, but in spirit. It was like all the heaviness I'd carried my whole life, stress, guilt, fear, was being peeled away layer by layer. For the first time, I wasn't just existing, I was becoming. And then, I wasn't alone. There was a presence beside me, radiating warmth, kindness, a power so gentle it brought me to tears. Before I even saw him, I knew it was Jesus. I didn't need confirmation. His presence said everything. He didn't rush to speak, but I felt completely understood. Every regret, every question, every wound, I didn't need to explain anything. He already knew, and he loved me anyway, completely. When he finally reached out his hand to me, I stepped closer. That's when something strange happened. I noticed my hands. They were glowing faintly. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but Jesus pointed to a mark on my palm, a subtle M shape I'd always thought was just a fold in my skin. "You've always carried this," he said. His voice wasn't just heard, it was felt, like music inside my soul. "It's not random, it's a reminder. You were made with purpose, with love." Those words, they cracked something open inside me. I'd spent so much of my life questioning why I was here, wondering if I mattered. And in that single moment, standing in that light, I finally understood. I always had. This wasn't the end, not even close. It was the beginning of a truth I was meant to carry back, with open hands and an open heart. And now, I'm ready to share it, with you. After meeting Jesus for the first time, I thought the experience had reached its peak. But it was only the beginning. I felt a soft pull, as if something gentle yet certain was inviting me forward. There was no fear, only a sense of being deeply seen and deeply safe. I began to move through what felt like a tunnel, but not one made of walls or stone. This place shimmered with color, brilliant golds, blues, and radiant whites that seemed to hum with life. The colors weren't just beautiful, they were alive, like they were singing some ancient loving truth directly into my spirit. As I moved forward, scenes from my life began to appear, not randomly, but with intention. I saw moments I hadn't thought of in years, times I had loved deeply, failed, celebrated, hurt, forgiven. I didn't relive them like a movie. I felt them, the emotions, the impact, the way each choice had rippled through my life and into the lives of others. But there was no judgment, just clarity. It was as if I was being shown, this is who you are, and this is how you've lived. Not to shame me, but to help me understand, to grow, to heal. Up ahead, I saw what looked like an opening, but it wasn't just light. It was alive. I could sense the presence of others, souls, surrounding me. Not in physical form, but real, unmistakable. Each one radiated warmth, joy, and a kind of welcome I'd never felt before. They weren't strangers. Somehow I felt known by them. The tunnel itself seemed to pulse with divine energy, like a heartbeat that wasn't just around me, but inside me too. I realized then, this wasn't just a path. It was a threshold, a bridge between the world I had left behind and something far greater. And as I stepped through that final veil, everything shifted. I entered a place that language honestly can't capture. It wasn't just beautiful, it was perfect. Not flawless in a material way, but in a way that made my soul feel at home. Everything was harmony, everything was love. And at the heart of it stood Jesus. Not as a distant figure, but as someone I knew with every fiber of my being. His presence filled everything, yet he stood there, waiting, just for me. When he extended his hands, I felt a rush of peace and awe so intense it brought tears to my eyes. And then I saw it. Something in his hands, something that took my breath away and made my spirit tremble. Not with fear, but with the realization that I was about to understand something far more powerful than I had ever dreamed. Something that would change the way I saw myself, and the reason I was sent back. As I stood there, in that radiant place, face to face with Jesus, something incredible happened. He gently extended his hands toward me, not in a grand gesture, but with a tenderness that spoke louder than words. I noticed the marks on his palms. Not wounds, but symbols. Symbols that pulsed with love, sacrifice, and an unshakable truth. They weren't meant to evoke sorrow. They were declarations of everything he had given for us. Then his eyes turned to mine, and with a quiet smile, he nodded toward my hands. "Look," he said. I glanced down, and for the first time I truly saw it. That faint M shape on my palm, something I'd noticed casually over the years, something I thought was just a fold in the skin, was glowing softly, like it had been waiting all along to be awakened. "This," Jesus said, "isn't random. It's a sign of who you are, of what you were sent to do." A wave of clarity washed over me. That simple mark was more than a physical trait. It was a divine imprint, a message from God, etched into me before I ever took my first breath. Jesus explained that many souls carry unique marks, subtle reminders of their connection to the divine. Not everyone notices, fewer still understand. But for those who do, it's a calling, That mark wasn't about status or identity, it was about purpose. He looked at me with a knowing gaze and said, "You've always wondered about it, haven't you?" I nodded, stunned. It was true. That little M had always caught my eye, stirred some strange feeling in me. But I'd brushed it off, thought it was nothing. Now, standing in front of the one who made me, I realized it had never been nothing. Jesus shared that the M stood for three things: mission, mercy, and manifestation. Mission, the soul's calling. A divine assignment planted deep within, often felt as a subtle nudge toward serving, healing, or guiding others. I thought back to all the moments I'd felt drawn to help someone, even when it made no sense. That pull, it was part of my design. Mercy, the unshakable grace we receive and the grace we're called to give. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about leading with compassion, forgiving even when it's hard, loving even when it costs something, and manifestation, the ability to bring God's will into the world through faith and action. Not magic, not wishful thinking, but the sacred power of aligning your life with divine purpose and watching something eternal move through you. I stood there, overwhelmed. That tiny glowing mark on my palm was no longer just a detail. It was a message, a reminder, a compass. Jesus didn't just tell me who I was. He reminded me who I'd always been, someone created with intention, someone called to live with purpose. Then he took my hand in his, and as we walked forward into a place that felt beyond time, vast, peaceful, and deeply personal, I knew I wasn't being given answers just for myself. I was being prepared to carry this truth back to others, to share what I'd seen, and to remind you, you are more than you think. You are known, you are marked, and you are meant for something beautiful. Suddenly, everything I'd ever lived through unfolded in front of me, not as scattered memories, but as a vivid, interconnected story. My story. But this time, I wasn't just reliving it, I was understanding it. It was as if someone had lifted a veil. I could see the patterns, the reasons behind the detours, and the deeper meaning beneath every experience, even the moments I had once brushed off as small or unimportant were now glowing with significance. I watched scenes where I had helped someone, even in the simplest way. Holding a door, offering a kind word, being there when no one else was. And from those small moments, I saw waves ripple outward, touching people I never met, in ways I could have never imagined. But I also saw moments of carelessness, words I had spoken in frustration, times I was too distracted to notice someone else's pain. Those moments had ripples too, and they mattered. Through it all, Jesus stood beside me. He didn't scold, he didn't shame. He simply was. A presence so full of compassion that it made even the painful parts bearable. He looked at me and said, "Every choice carries weight, but you are never stuck. You are always free to grow, to love, and to choose better." Those words struck something deep in me. I realized I had been living most of my life reacting, surviving, but not always intentionally. And yet in every moment there had been an invitation to align with love. The most powerful thing I saw wasn't about individual success or failure. It was how every life, including mine, is part of something larger. Every connection, every relationship, even brief encounters with strangers, they were all threads woven into a massive, beautiful design. "You're never alone," Jesus said. "Your life touches more than you'll ever know." That's when my eyes were drawn back to the faint M on my palms, still glowing with a quiet intensity. Jesus explained it again. But this time I heard it with new ears. This isn't just a mark, it's a map, a spiritual blueprint, a sign that you were made with care, intention, and divine purpose. It wasn't about being perfect. It wasn't about having all the answers. It was about living awake, aware that everything I did could reflect either fear or love. I wasn't expected to get it all right. I was simply invited to keep choosing what aligned with the truth of who I really was. And that truth, I was created on purpose, equipped for a mission, and connected to something far greater than I'd ever dared to believe. When the life review ended, I didn't feel broken or defeated. I felt empowered, seen, ready. Because now I understood. My past didn't define me. My purpose did. Jesus looked at me with a kindness that seemed to reach straight into my soul. Then he spoke of the M on my hands, not just as a symbol, but as something deeply personal. He told me that the meaning of the mark isn't the same for everyone. For some, it represents their role as healers, people who bring comfort, peace, and hope to others during their darkest hours. For others, it's a sign of leadership, of being a light for others to follow. But beyond those individual meanings, the M is something more. It's a connection, a thread tying each of us back to the divine source that created us. Then he asked, "Have you ever noticed how certain opportunities or challenges seem to find you?" I nodded, remembering moments in my life that felt like more than coincidence. Times I'd been pulled in directions I didn't expect, yet somehow needed. "That's the mark at work," he said. "It aligns your life with what you were made for." But what moved me most was this. He told me the mark wasn't just about me. It was a sign of something greater, a spiritual family. Others around the world who also carried it, each one on a mission to bring more love, more light, more healing into the world. "You are not alone," he said. Those words changed something in me. The M wasn't just a mark. It was a promise, a reminder that I was never lost, just being led. Jesus looked at me, and with a voice that was calm yet powerful, he said, "No matter where you are in life, you are always loved." Those words hit me harder than I expected. I had carried guilt for years, over things I'd said, decisions I regretted, people I felt I had let down. But in his presence, that weight I had dragged with me for so long began to lift. He didn't shame me. He didn't list my faults. Instead, he spoke about forgiveness, not as something we have to earn, but something we're invited to receive. Redemption, he said, isn't about proving yourself. It's about letting go. It's about accepting the love that's already yours. He spoke of hope, too, not as wishful thinking, but as a promise. Every challenge, he said, wasn't a punishment, but a path, a way to grow, to uncover the strength and truth inside of us. Then he showed me moments from my life, times when I felt like I was falling apart, and helped me see what I'd gained through the struggle. Deeper faith, greater resilience, and a clearer understanding of who I truly am. Jesus reminded me of the M on my hands. "This is your reminder," he said. "You're still becoming. You're still growing into the person God designed you to be." And his message wasn't just for me. "Tell them," he said, "they are never forgotten. They are deeply loved, and their life has meaning." As he spoke, the world around us seemed to open up, a place filled with light, music, and peace so profound, it felt like my soul was finally home. What I saw next took my breath away. I had stepped into a realm so radiant, so full of life, It made every earthly beauty I'd ever known seem pale in comparison. But it wasn't just the light. It was what the light felt like. It didn't cast shadows. It didn't just illuminate, it embraced. It was alive, pulsing with warmth and energy that moved through everything. The landscape shimmered with colors I can't even name. Rivers sparkled as if they were made of flowing light. Fields of flowers swayed in harmony, not just moving, but singing, as if the entire realm was echoing the heartbeat of God. But the most powerful part, the beings I met there, they weren't just spirits. They were luminous, radiant presences. Each one glowed with its own light, yet somehow they were all connected, like individual notes in the same divine symphony. Some felt familiar in ways I couldn't explain. I didn't remember their names, but my soul recognized them. I knew them. Jesus stood beside me and said, "This place isn't far from you. It's always here. You just can't fully see it while in your earthly form." Then he said something that moved me deeply. "What you see now is what lives inside you." This realm was not a fantasy. It was a reflection of what's possible when we live with faith, with love, and in alignment with God's purpose. It gave me a new kind of hope, not just for what comes after this life, but for how we can begin to live right now. Jesus then turned to speak about the life I had left behind. His voice held a deep clarity, the kind that cuts through noise and confusion, yet it was full of love, gentle but direct. "Your time on earth is a gift," he said. "Every breath, every heartbeat, every ordinary moment, it all matters." He didn't speak in riddles or lofty language. His words were simple, but they carried the weight of eternal truth. He explained that the value of a life isn't measured by achievements, titles, or what the world calls success. Instead, it's found in the unseen moments, the quiet acts of compassion, the smiles shared with strangers, the times we choose kindness when no one is watching. "The world may chase wealth, status, and power," he said, "but heaven celebrates love." That truth hit me hard. I thought about all the times I'd rushed past people in my life, the missed chances to comfort, to listen, to simply be present. I realized I had overlooked the most sacred part of living: connection. He spoke of forgiveness next, but not in the way I had always thought of it. Not as an obligation or something you give only when others deserve it. He said, "Forgiveness is freedom. For you. When you let go, you rise." He showed me how resentment and old pain had dulled the light within me, how I'd carried grudges like chains. And then he gave me a glimpse of what life could look like without them: lighter, fuller, free. "Let go," he said, "not to forget, but to heal." Then he asked me to share this, not through speeches or sermons, but through the way I live. "Be the message," he told me. "Let your love speak louder than your words. Let grace be your answer to the world's harshness. Let your life reflect what you've seen here." Those words didn't just inspire me. They gave me direction, a map, a way to navigate life with purpose and intention. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being real, being present, choosing love, even when it costs you. And then came a moment I'll never forget. Jesus looked at me with such kindness, but also with a seriousness that told me something important was coming. "You have a choice," he said. "You can stay here in this peace, or return." My heart sank. The beauty, the love, the safety of that place. It felt like home in a way nothing else ever had. Leaving it felt impossible. But then he reminded me of why I was there in the first place. "Your story is not finished," he said gently. "There are hearts waiting for what you've seen, souls who need hope. You carry something now, something meant to be shared." He didn't force me. He didn't pressure me. He simply offered the truth. I still had work to do. I thought of the people I loved. I thought of the strangers I had yet to meet, the lives I might touch. And deep down, I knew I had to go back. Still, I hesitated. I was afraid. What if I forgot everything? What if it faded? Jesus placed a hand over mine. "You'll return here," he said, "when it's time. But for now, live fully. Shine your light. And remember, you are never alone." With those words, I felt a shift. The light around me grew softer, and I felt myself being pulled gently, almost lovingly, back toward my earthly body. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital bed. Machines beeped softly, and my family stood nearby, their faces etched with fear and hope. As they realized I was awake, I saw the tears in their eyes. And the relief. But I wasn't the same. Everything looked different. The colors around me seemed more vivid, the voices more meaningful. I looked at each person in the room and saw not just a face, but a soul. Someone precious, someone connected. It felt like I had returned from eternity, dropped back into time with a new lens. At first, I didn't know how to explain what had happened. How do you put the infinite into words? How do you describe meeting Jesus, seeing another realm, hearing truths that shake the very core of who you are? So I started slowly. I shared little pieces with those closest to me, glimpses of what I saw, what I felt. Some people were captivated, others were skeptical. But I realized it didn't matter. I wasn't called to convince. I was called to be a witness. And slowly, something in me began to change. I found myself becoming more patient with others, but also with myself. I stopped reacting from fear or frustration. I began responding with love. I paid attention to the quiet nudges, the inner whispers reminding me to reach out, to forgive, to help. And that mark, the subtle M I'd once ignored on my palms, became my anchor. Every time doubt crept in, I'd look down and remember what Jesus said. "You are loved, you are chosen, you have a purpose." That truth changed everything. And now I share this story with you, not because I think I'm special, but because I believe you are. We all carry something sacred within us. We all have moments where the light tries to break through. Maybe you felt it. A pull, a question, a moment of clarity in the middle of chaos. Don't ignore it. You were made for more than survival. You were made to shine, to heal, to love deeply. And no matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, your story isn't over. It's just beginning. Coming back to Earth wasn't easy. In fact, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Leaving behind that place of perfect peace, light, and unconditional love felt like being torn from home. But I knew I had to return, not for myself, but for the message I was now carrying. This story, my story, isn't just about what I experienced. It's a reminder to anyone who's ever felt lost, unseen, or unworthy. You are not forgotten. You are part of something greater than you can imagine. When I woke up in that hospital bed, surrounded by machines and the anxious faces of my family, everything looked the same. But I wasn't. The world, once ordinary and predictable, suddenly felt extraordinary. Every sound, every face, every detail seemed more vivid, more sacred. I wasn't just alive, I was awakened. The first thing I noticed was a deep, unshakable peace. Problems that used to consume me suddenly seemed so small. The stress, The fear, the things I used to obsess over, none of it held the same weight anymore. Life hadn't magically become easy, but I saw it differently now. Every challenge had a purpose. Every struggle was a lesson meant to draw me closer to God. Even my relationships shifted. I found myself listening more, slowing down, and truly seeing the people around me. I no longer wanted to rush through life. I wanted to savor it. Every conversation became a chance to show love. Every act, no matter how small, became an offering. I stopped looking for big moments to define my life. I realized that my mission wasn't about changing the world in some grand, dramatic way. It was about living intentionally, choosing kindness, leading with compassion, being present. That's what Jesus had shown me, that love in its simplest form was the most powerful force of all. And people noticed. They started to comment on how I carried myself. They'd say things like, "You seem so calm now," or "There's something different about you." Some asked me what happened, and I began to share, quietly, gently, with anyone who was open to hearing. My story became a way to connect, not to preach, not to convince, but to witness, to be a living testimony of what faith, love, and divine purpose can do to a soul. And then there was the mark. That faint M shape on my palm, once something I dismissed as just a crease, became something sacred. After my encounter with Jesus, I couldn't unsee it. It was like it had been waiting all along for me to understand. At first, I hesitated to bring it up. I didn't want people to think I was imagining things. But something unexpected happened. As I opened up, others started to say, "I have that mark too." And not just one or two, many. They described the same feeling I had. A pull, a sense of purpose they couldn't quite explain. Some said it felt like protection. Others said it reminded them of their connection to something higher. For me, it was all of that and more. It became a daily reminder of the mission Jesus had entrusted to me. He told me the M stood for mission, mercy, and manifestation. Mission, because we all have a reason for being here. Our lives are not accidents. Each of us is placed in this world with intention. Mercy, because love isn't just something we receive. It's something we're meant to give, especially when it's hard. Mercy is grace in action, forgiveness in motion, and manifestation, because we are not just observers in this world. We are creators. Through our choices, our faith, and our love, we bring heaven closer to earth. We turn divine intention into reality. The mark wasn't just a feature of my hands. It became a spiritual blueprint, a signpost pointing me back to who I truly am and who I was made to be. On difficult days, when doubts creep in or life feels heavy, I look at my hands. I trace that little M with my eyes and remember Jesus' words. You are loved. You are chosen. You have a purpose. Those words echo in me still. They've become my foundation, my anchor. And they're not just for me. They're for you. If you're watching this and wondering whether your life matters, if you're feeling overwhelmed, invisible, or like you've strayed too far, you haven't. You are not beyond hope. You are not beyond love. You are part of a divine plan. The mark may be on your hand, or it may be etched somewhere deeper, but it's there. A reminder from the Creator that you were made for more. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need to have it all figured out. All you need is the willingness to say yes. Yes to love. Yes to faith. Yes to becoming who you were created to be. That's what this journey has taught me. That the most meaningful life is not one without hardship, but one that chooses purpose in the middle of it. One that brings light even in darkness. One that reflects the love of God, quietly, consistently, faithfully. So if there's one thing I can leave you with, it's this. Your life has meaning. You were not placed here by chance. You are seen, you are cherished, and you are part of something eternal. Next time you feel lost, look at your hands. Remember the mark. Remember the mission. And remember that wherever you go, you carry the light of something far greater than yourself. Thank you for allowing me to share this story. I pray that it brings you peace, hope, and a renewed sense of just how deeply you are loved. What I experienced was real. What I saw, what I felt, it changed me forever. And I believe with every part of my soul that I was brought back not just to live, but to tell you this. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You were created with divine purpose, and there is a light inside you that no darkness can ever extinguish. That little mark on your hand, maybe you've never noticed it. Maybe you've always wondered what it means. I'm here to tell you, it's not a coincidence. It's a calling. So if this message stirred something in your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button if you believe in love, in purpose, in something bigger than all of us. Comment below and tell me, have you ever felt that pull? That unexplainable sense that you're meant for something more? I want to hear your story. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's hurting, doubting, or searching. Be the light in their darkness. And if you want to walk this journey with me, to keep receiving messages of hope, truth, and faith, subscribe to this channel. This is just the beginning. I don't share this for fame. I share it because God gave me a message, and now I'm giving it to you. May you feel His love. May you remember your purpose. And may you walk boldly into the life you were always meant to live. I'll be here, waiting, sharing, praying, and I hope you'll walk this path with me.